And so let me just start off by saying that I'm a father of 10, 5 boys and 5 girls, right? And 20 grandchildren. Wow. And me and my wife, she's like my backbone. She keeps me focused as we continue to endeavor to be the best father that I can be. I'm excited about the whole mindset of fatherhood and working with fathers. I'm the executive director of the Fatherhood Connection. It's a men's parenting and personal development group. Also, I am the director of the New York State Fatherhood Initiative, which focuses on the 10 economic regions across New York State. So there are 10 regions that we've identified in the economic regions, and it goes all the way across to where we're dealing with the executive directors of the community action agencies. And so each of the community action agencies have services, wraparound services. They provide for family, they provide for the mother, the children, they are a host of services. And so we have each one of them in each of the 10 regions. Mind you, I'll say this, that each region usually have about 5 to 10 counties in it. So for example, Rochester here is Region 2, but there are 7 counties in Region 2, right? And so when we talk about what we're doing now is really expanded because we started off with just coming to Monroe County. And with Monroe County, they weren't quite ready in the beginning. And I don't know who this is for, but many times God has to prepare the environment for us to come, right? In whatever endeavor that you have, many times you're ready maybe, but he has to set it up, right? He sets Adam up in the garden, right? And so he sits on it. The Bible talks about how in the beginning, right, he created the heaven and the earth. And then it speaks about how that the earth was void, right? And so he had to come and sit upon the face of the waters, inhabitate his environment. The Bible talks also about how the presence of the Lord is the fullness of joy. And so many times as we begin to endeavor and to expand and to do things according to the kingdom's sake, God has to set the environment up. And so I really believe that there's no accident or coincidence in what he's doing and how he's doing it. So we worked we came to Monroe County. They weren't quite ready for us. And then we went to Livingston County and Genesee County, and they were ready. And so we began to run our 13 weeks men's personal development and parenting classes. And we connected with the Department of Social Services in each one of those counties. And after about 2 years, we came back to Monroe County, and I did a presentation to Monroe County, and they said that, Reggie, we don't want to contract with you for 13 weeks. We want to hire you, and you just run your program. And so that happened. It was the grace of God. I couldn't have thought of that even better than that. And so they hired us, and we worked for Monroe County for 9.5 years, right? Just really working with the Department of Social Services, the CPS unit, prevention, foster care, probation, you name it. We also did our youth program that really dealt with boys to men, ages 13 to 21. And these were young men, many of them coming from foster care that were on pins. They had struggled with parenting, which is going to bring me right to the whole piece when we talk about the boy, the man, and the patriarch. I'm going to really probably focus more on the boy role because that's where the spirit of orphans come from, right? Our young stages of development. And what I find is that there's a lot of arrested development, meaning that I'm stuck in a phase of development. And many a time because we were created to belong, and when that belonging and those needs are not met, then we begin to seek elsewhere for those needs to be met. That makes sense? Yes. So what we find with the boy is the 2-year-old toddler, right? And he's never satisfied. He has all of these needs. He's selfish and self-centered. Every man has a boy, right? Including Reggie, right? And every woman has a girl. And so when those needs are not met, we tend to spaz out. We tend to throw our temper tantrum. And so we find that often when even today, at my age of 62, I find that there are times when the boy still wants to act out because his needs are not being met. And so coming from a family where it was full of addictions. My father was an alcoholic. He's my hero today. But he was an alcoholic, and his father was an alcoholic. So how do you break then the pattern? How do you break the cycle of addiction? And so many of us, even those in our global audience that will be seeing this, breaking the addiction and the patterns of habits that really have caused us to become what we call the orphan spirit isn't easy. It isn't easy at all, and it's very intentional. It has to be intentional for us to be able to address this. And so what we're finding then is that the boy, again, is the 2-year-old toddler. His needs not met. He spazzes out. He acts out for attention. The man is the one who's responsible. He's come to the place where he understands his responsibility, and we call it work. In the Hebrew, avoda, it really means that that you discover oneself. Now, many times we don't talk about work from the term discovering oneself or purpose or assignment. Usually, when we look at work, we think about a 9 to 5 or go ahead and make a paycheck. My father was very good at providing work, the basic skills of making sure that we had a house to live in, clothes on our back, and food to eat, which is what he saw his father do, right? So many guys can do that, but still not be there emotionally, socially, spiritually, in those other areas. I call them the 5 domains. And so oftentimes we find that we could do 1 or 2 things well, but we struggle when it comes down to the emotional, the spiritual. I know people that are highly spiritual, but emotionally, I call it jacked up. Really meaning that they don't know how to handle their emotional upswings, downswings, mood changes. And so I'm a firm believer that the way we parent a lot of times deals with our leadership skills. How we lead has to do with parenting. How you parent has to do with how you lead. So when we talk about the boy, the man, and the patriarch, the man then is responsible, first of all, for discovering himself. There's a work to discover him. We talk about that we don't work to necessarily to be employed, but we work to be deployed. So in other words, my assignment is a part of understanding my work. What's my passion? What do I enjoy doing? And so I love doing what I'm doing now, and I saw other people doing it. I said, wow, it started off in employment and training, and that's where I saw the vision. Isn't that interesting? You can watch somebody else do exactly what you're supposed to do, and then that conversation, right, where God will speak to us and say, hey, you're supposed to be doing some of that, right? And so that's why I empower other guys, right, so that they can do some of the same things. Now, you guys can ask questions at any moment that you want. Feel free to do that, and you as well, ma'am. Feel free to ask any questions or comments. But I'm just going to continue to go until, all right? So again, the boy, the man, and the patriarch. The boy is a 2-year-old toddler. The man is the one that's responsible, not just for providing for his family, but providing for himself and also taking ownership for his behavior. I cannot excuse my behavior, right? That's a part of the work. That's a part of building the character. And we talk about often how your gift will take you so far, but your character is what sustains you. I don't want to be taken far and not be able to sustain. I want to keep what I got. I lost so many things. And so that's a whole other topic when we talk about loss and grief and how do we handle grief and how do we handle loss. The boy doesn't know how to handle loss. He doesn't know how to handle it. He doesn't understand that loss is a part of growth. Oh my God, I feel that thing right there, man. Right? Until I learn how to handle defeat or to handle a failed event, I don't really understand the intentional effort when we do have the victory. Because sometimes a loss precedes the victory, right? It looks like a loss, but the truth is I'm being developed. We often say that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? And so many times Reggie wasn't ready. But the teacher was, Right? And so you guys can be my teacher, but if I'm not ready, I'm tuned out and tuned to something else. And so the boy, the man, the patriarch is the one that's not just a father to his biological children, but he's a father to a community, right? So he understands that he's dealing with what we call fatherless America, where America have birthed so many children that are fatherless. And we know in scripture, God talks about the fatherless, right? He said, I would not leave you as orphans. Now, I want to talk about the orphan spirit, if I can, in the last few minutes that we have here. But again, if there's any questions or comments, I really gel on discussions and feedback. So feel free to do that. When we talk about the orphan spirit, we're also addressing the opposite of that is the feeling or created to belong. So when we talk about orphan spirit on one side, where we're dealing with bereaved, meaning displaced relationships, right? Those people that were supposed to nurture you, the fatherless, the parentless, it comes about in a way that it deals with abandonment and rejection. Can you imagine how many people grow up with issues of abandonment and rejection? Watch this. Even as adults, I'm still, because that's what happened to me, I'm still pulling some layers off the onion as it relates to abandonment, as it relates to rejection. And so again, what we talk about in our fatherhood groups now that we're running across the state is that it's common to address abandonment and rejection issues, especially from the orphan's mindset. All right. And so I wanted to really talk briefly on that. Some of the characteristics of an orphan is that I'm not good enough, right? I'm a failure. Hard to compliment others. I want to compete, but I can't lose. I don't know about you all, but I remember playing football at Franklin High School one year, and we lost every game. How do you lose every game and walk away as the most valuable player? It's crazy, right? It's not heard of. So all the while, God was raising me up, right? That even in an apparent loss, I'm a winner. Oh my God. See, so I'm understanding that even in the areas of loss, I can still have the victory. Even when there's an apparent a loss of a son, a loss of a daughter, or an area of being rejected, I can deal with that. Why? Because in the end, I win. And so let me talk real quickly about how when Christ says in John 14:18, he says, I will not leave you as orphans. Now watch this. This is very, very important. I don't know about you all, but what I'm finding is that I can be a Christian and still not have a revelation of who Christ is. In other words, I can be religious and go through the acts. I can be in church on Sunday and Bible study on Wednesday and really making my kids come and don't even realize without revelation, I'm causing them to defy God because I'm not meeting their needs as a father. Oh my God. And so what now? They grow up and they don't understand that, look, Dad, you gave more time to the church, more time to this and that, and they went with unmet needs. This is happening across the land. And so when we talk about fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, you can be unaware that you're provoking your child to wrath. Let me go further. You can be unaware that you're provoking your husband, your wife, to become defiant, right? I mean, I don't know how many times, Reggie, I've been married 29 years. How many times has my wife been saying the same thing over and over? And so now she stopped talking about it, right? So now I'm looking at a behavior that's not being met. The need is not being met. And I can't continue to think that I'm getting all these accolades outside the house, but then struggling on the inside of the house. So it's important as we move forward. Any questions or comments or thoughts? You guys all right?
I hesitate to stop you, but
Yeah.
I did wonder about, if you were to address a man who's got the orphan spirit and give him like a first step to how to overcome that, what would you say?
Excellent question. One of the things that I believe is that I'm a treasure hunter. I think that when we talk about fathers, we talk about fathers look for the treasure in other people. So in whatever man you're dealing with, every woman that you're dealing with, there's the gift of treasure on the inside of them. In other words, there's a purpose. When God created them, there was a plan for them. There was an assignment, and there was an ultimate fulfillment of joy on the inside of them. So trying to tap in to their giftedness, something they do, something you do that's second to none is a game changer, right? And so being able to point to the thing that they are good at, finding that thing. So I would affirm them, approve them, and celebrate them. That's a good place to start. Speaking to their strengths, speaking to something that they do well and that they enjoy doing. Many of us have not even had that opportunity, especially when the parental influence have not been a nurturing one. That was a good question. So you want to?
You're the man to answer. You're in front of these guys every day.
Yes.
Doing a lot of good in their lives. So it's good for us to hear, especially as we attempt to be mentors, like up in the gym.
Absolutely.
And I've heard many times people say that just a pat on the back is really the best thing you can offer.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Being able to affirm, approve, and celebrate them. So I think of it as the mailman. We come in to edify, to exhort, and to bring comfort. So being able to pull on God, the word of wisdom, the word of knowledge. God, give me something to be able to speak to the very thing in this person that activates them, cause them to feel accepted. Because again, the orphan spirit is one that's not been accepted. They don't belong. So that's why kids will join a gang, right, and take out a body or to do a carjacking just to belong. I wish I had somebody that understood what I'm talking about. They're so needful. There is so much in father hunger or father wounded mindset that they'll do anything just to be accepted. And so we as those fathers, those men that are mentoring, that are raising up a Joshua army, we need to know how to affirm them. Not focus on what they don't do well, but what do they do well, right? Instead of not doing the homework and not going to school, what did they do well? So find something good to praise them about. I think that's a great start. That's a great start. And now I got to deal with the tolerance that when they don't do well, that I don't focus on that. Because whatever you focus on, that's the thing that you give power to. Right?
Can you tell us about your Fatherhood Connection ministry, which obviously is an expression of your patriarchy to the community? And would love to hear more about that. What's going on?
Sure.
Okay.
We are now looking at training the trainer, right? And so what we find is that we were in Monroe County, then we went to 8 counties, and as of November of last year, the State Council of Children and Families, they looked at what we were doing. They said, Reggie, you're in a lot of counties. How would it look if we were to have you go across the entire state of New York? And it sounded like a dream, right? That I had been hoping and believing for. And I said, we can do that. And so basically what they did, they began to have me to connect with, again, the 10 economic regions across the state. And, excuse me, we began to not only look at those individuals, but all of the stakeholders within a community. Who am I talking about? The probation department, the DSS department, the faith-based, right? The community action agencies. Anything in a community is a part of the kingdom. So the church now is no longer the ones that come inside the house. The church has always been the community. And so now we, the ecclesia, go out in where? The marketplace, right? And become the one that pronounce deliverance, pronounce help. My specific assignment happens to be working with fathers and families. Now, I just want to release this to all those that have an ear to hear. There's a mantle that I believe all of us carry to some degree. And there are angelic beings assigned to carry out the mantle. Even like Elijah left the mantle for Elisha. Excuse me. There's mantles that and I believe that I walk in a family type of mantle that releases a love, a belonging, a caring, right? A support. Let me use this word, inspiration. I inspire people, right? And the way that I do it is through engagement. And what are two keys to engagement? Vulnerability and transparency. I know Pastor Don talked about transparency, I think it was last time, but I want to even add the vulnerability part. So I want you to know that I'm a man too, and I'm full of mistakes, and I'm a handful, right? But at the same time, in my vulnerability, I'm able to engage. The word perfect in the Greek, it really means mature. It doesn't mean without flaw. So as I mature and I grow, right, then I can be more vulnerable. What am I saying? In most businesses, in the professional field, they tell you to not disclose things. They make sure that you don't be vulnerable, basically. In the kingdom, vulnerability becomes the essence of who we are. And I'm reminded of Christ saying, when Don Thomas, except I touch you where the nails were, except and so he said, come touch. So many times we have to be able to speak as a badge of honor, the hurt, the trauma, the pain. And so we do this in our fatherhood groups. Three things that we definitely got to cover, right, is parenting. And we talk about the styles of parenting, right? We talk about the authoritarian parent or the authoritative or more assertive. We talk about the permissive parent. We talk about the parent that wants to be the friend to the child, right, and addressing that. In many cases, the father who's not really living with his child, that only sees them on the weekend, he doesn't want to be a disciplinarian. He wants to have fun with that child because he only has the weekend. And so in many cases, he just wants to be the friend and play with them. But yet at the same time, there's certain distinctive giftings that the father brings that the mother doesn't. So they need to see that mature side as well. How do I be assertive? Then we also talk about parentification. Parentification is role reversal. It's when the role of the father now becomes more of the child, and the child takes on the role of the parent. In many cases, you find this in addictive type of behaviors and dysfunctional families, right? But we also find this in the workaholic parent. If the father or the mother is often working, right, then who's going to do the nurturance? Who's going to provide the support, the structure? Who's going to be clocking the daughter or the son who's on the phone going on the internet when they're not supposed to go on the internet? So there has to be that structure. And many times what we didn't know, I didn't know at the time, that it was called parentification. So parenting, dealing with domestic violence. Again, we were talking a little bit before we started here today, is that money and funding is coming down the pipe just for domestic violence, especially as it works with women and men being able to understand that. And because if that father doesn't get the training and the proper development, he's going to meet another woman, and the cycle, it just becomes over and over and over again. So how do we break that cycle, right? So we have to bring that father here, and let's address some closure that perhaps he never got from his mother, perhaps he never got from his father, and educate him, at the same time empower him. Mm-hmm. Questions, comments, thoughts?
I did want to open it up.
Yeah.
Did you have anything? No. Okay. Well, so how much time we got, Mike? We're a little over. We're in
but it's
penalty
okay.
time?
It's
Okay. Well, so you, I asked you the question, how would you address, a man who is, has the orphan spirit side? Another question would be, how would you address somebody in the church, specifically on this notion of getting a revelation from God, having a mantle and a calling and an assignment, and what would be the first step for that person?
I think it's really a good question, and it really begins with meeting the person where they are, right? What is it that they're good at? Where's their passion, right? Let's work with the passion that they have. And with that passion, then how do we go to the next step? What's the next step that we need to make? Rather it be, some guys have the passion, but they don't have the social skills. Or you may have the social skills, but don't have the spirit. You're really just not strong spiritually. So being able to empower a guy or empower him to make him feel welcomed, make him feel belonging, that he's okay, accepted, right? That's what I had to deal with. It's just being able to be accepted, right? That's huge today. And watch this, not look at the things that I don't understand about his personality, because the personality can keep me distant. But if I look beyond the personality, there's probably somebody who really want to be accepted. And so I have to have a tolerance and an eye to really look again for the treasure. So I think that that's in the church as well. I think that we don't talk enough about some of these topics that we address, right? Communication skills, anger. Really, watch this. Anger was designed, I think it's got a bad rap. Anger was designed to really be a defense against a threat. Now, say with me, a defense against a threat. So if it was designed to be a defense against a threat, if I've lived in an environment that all day long, my hood, my culture is always living in a threatened type of environment, I don't know what's not a threat based on what I've lived with. And so now we have to almost reorganize his understanding or relearn that anger was designed to really empower you to complete your assignment. That's why the Bible says, be angry and what? Sin not. So there are boundaries then that I can. So anger then is not me punching the wall or hitting somebody or cussing them out. It's learning that I can use that energy. It's like not spending my oil. I can use that energy for my assignment once I discover it. Right? And so I think that we have to get back to the men's ministries in the churches. I think that the men's ministry is lacking what we're talking about right here, where we come together. And that's what I want to do, is train other men in the men's ministry, right, to run these type of groups, right, where we talking about some of these issues, bringing closure to the father wound, right, being able, watch this, what things will I keep, toss, or add about my father? What things would they be? My father had a great work ethic. I'll keep that. I'll toss his addiction, his womanizing, and things of that nature, his controlling spirit. But I'll add his affection. He didn't have affection. He wasn't told that he was loved until he was 50 years old. He didn't get the hug, right? And so again, these things need to be discussed, because how do you break the cycle with your own kids if you don't have it addressed the things or your unmet needs? So these things are important moving forward. I think that we have to work with the pastors and those people in the men's ministry. Let me even talk about our daughters. I have 5 daughters that, they look for a man like unto me. Now, if I got a lot going on, I'm scared that she gonna pick somebody. All my head it comes. I'm training, right, her to look for a man just like me. Even if I'm doing something that's wrong, right? She will remember what I did. That's how powerful it is. And one other thing I want to say about this, I remember asking my dad, I said, Dad, what's your pain? And he said, my pain? My pain was, my addiction. I said, no, Dad, that's how you cope with your pain. What was your pain? Many fathers, parents, families don't understand the pain of their mom and dad. When he revealed it, watch this is what he said. He said, Reg, my pain was that no matter what I did, it was never good enough. I'm going to tell you why it floored me. It floored me because the same pain that my dad had was transferred to me. He didn't even know he was teaching me this. Unconsciously, he was showing and sharing with me and job shadowing, if you will, right, the same pain. And so now Reggie picks it up. And what are the chances then of my 5 daughters, 5 sons, right, go through some of this stuff? So breaking this cycle is huge, right? If I was to ask you guys, what pain did your father carry? What pain do you carry, right? That's a deep question, because nobody talks about that. Who talks about that, right? But watch this. Although it's privately and silently not talked about, you got to know that it's transferring to the things and the people that love you the most. And we have to address that. So in our groups, we talk about this stuff. Guys that cry and snot and go through whatever they go through, but they walk out being empowered. And so I say that we have to continue to do this, train other trainers to do what we're doing, to address the role of the of the daughters and how they look for, this is their first impression of a man, that father, right? And how he treats her. No one should treat my daughter any kind of way different than me. So she's looking for a man of how I treat her. Now, if I abused her or hurt her, it screws up her reference of what a man is. And this is what we got now in our communities now, where women now are going after other women and men are going after, it's crazy, right? And we have to break these cycles and bring back what was originally intended for us as men and as women. This is huge. Yeah. I can't say it though.
If you're a pastor or if you have a men's ministry and you want to take the first step towards doing a train the trainer course, is there a way forward for
Absolutely.
Your organization?
Absolutely. Good question. So every Monday and Thursday, I run Zoom links, right, on the Fatherhood Connection. And I can give that Zoom link out every Monday. It is from 6 to 8 p.m., right? 6 to 8 p.m. And the Zoom link is 833-281-5353. And that's again, 833-281-5353. And this is a Zoom link that people could get on to kind of view what we do, right? And that's on Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays and Thursdays, I run groups. And this is running groups in Monroe County, but also in other counties. And so we can bring them all together. So that's one way that they can kind of view what we do. But other than that, my phone number, 585-284-2445. And that's 585-284-2445. As we do with Don Stevens, Pastor Stevens, we run every second Saturday of the month, we run our men's program there at his church. And so we can do the same thing with any other church leader, but it doesn't even have to be a church leader. It can be any agency that's interested in this. We're good to do it. And so,
what are some of your personal needs and your program needs?
Wow, that's a heavy question. Yeah. So I guess the personal needs would be that we begin to look at other men who want to do this, right? Get exposure out there. So to make it known, I think our marketing could get much better. You know, our ability to market what we do and to raise up other men. I think that will be helpful. Program needs, I think, I don't think I was prepared to answer that. But it's a good question. I've not had that question asked me. But I do think that building a team, really having a team and really being able to market this and being able to share this on the levels, maybe even doing a podcast, you know, or getting the word out that this is available, right, for other families, other men, and training them as trainers to do the same work. To me, that's what discipleship is all about. And I think that's where my hunger and my thirst is.